Welcome back to Lessons for Life. We are reeling from the election result. I say result because it's not actually been confirmed yet, but it is now clear that Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States. Is that right, Joe? We've got the other Joe here, Joe Plummerson, who is going to reflect on this election result. What do you think? I can't be wrong, can I?
I mean, I'm inclined to find that a bit objectionable. I haven't been following it, super closely, but the last I checked a few hours ago, I don't think he's made it to 270 yet. I think there's been a lot of funny business going on, and I think I think that's quite loaded. If I'm honest, that's a quite loaded way to call it.
Okay. Well, what's the funny business that's been going on? Owen Keeling in the chat is saying Biden lost. Amir Reza is celebrating. And we've got someone called Airtime as well. What's the funny business that's been going on? What has Donald Trump got to complain about?
Well, I mean, look, I haven't followed it on such a nitty gritty, like he said, she said kind of level about like the particular antics that have been done. I know Pennsylvania has been reserving the right to sort of to not call their votes until 9 days, 13 to whatever it was, like something insane past the time.
Right.
And I mean, the battle lines have drawn pretty clearly. Trump himself, which is all you really need to know, he's been protesting against that. And the only reason he would be protesting against that is if those states and the people, the election authorities that are in charge of the procedures in those states are making those calls in order to keep some leeway and make some wiggle room to keep Trump out. So and the media were all saying, all leading up until the election, which is why I would say it's quite objectionable and loaded. I think we need to be very cautious. The media, all leading up to the election, and the official polls and everything, were all saying that Trump was going to lose.
And who does that help? I mean, if the media is going one way, doesn't that make Biden voters complacent and then not bother showing up? If you think your candidate is going to lose or you think it's going to be close, you're going to drive more people onto the streets. If you have this confidence, there's less urgency, isn't there?
Well, you could say the same about people. I mean, what it was done was, I heard Tucker Carlson, who's come a long way as a human being. He was saying that.
I like that. I like that. You're right. He has.
Yeah, he really has, and he was saying that it's basically a sabotage against Trump's fundraising, because Trump has so much donations coming in from the grassroots, and Biden is funded by Wall Street, to the tune of 1.5 to 2 times more than Trump, and they're basically trying to get people who are on the fence about donating to be like, well, it's not even going to be a contest, and it's going to be, and it's trying to take away momentum from the Trump. Whereas if people, I mean, Wall Street doesn't buy what the media says because they're professionals and they're looking at everything objectively and cunningly, and they're going to bankroll Biden no matter what. But the people who need to be careful with where they put their dollars to, they're going to be on the fence about whether to donate to the campaign or not, and they're probably only going to put money to their limited funds to the campaign if they think it's going to be close, if they think it's going to make a difference, and if they think there's they would love to see Trump in, but there's nothing they can do about it anyway, they might not. So that was the most succinct and effective interpretation of it that I've heard from Tucker. And George Galloway was saying this all running up until for the last few weeks about the shy Tory, and he was saying, I wouldn't buy the polls. I wouldn't believe the polls, because we had it with Thatcher in this country about the shy Tory, and the media doing what you just did, unfortunately, just now, is calling it prematurely and saying, but but they said that in 2016 as well. And as the votes were coming in, I stayed up until, I was drunk, drinking lots of alcohol and cocaine, watching
have you been to bed yet?
My friend, well, no, that was on Tuesday. I have
we've been up all week. Omar and I have been doing a staying up all night marathon.
Well, I haven't cared enough about it, but my friend had put about 2-3 grand or something on Trump winning, and he's been following it really closely, and obviously he cared more, and he got like 15-8. So he, but he was, now
he should have hedged that bet, because late in the night, Trump became about 7-1 on, and Biden was drifting out to 3-1, and it should have been more generous odds than that. If you've been a clever gambling man, you could have hedged your bets and had money on both sides and been guaranteed a win, and that doesn't count as gambling in my book. But I'm sure Omar X will say something different. In the chat, Owen Keeling is saying something more is going on. It doesn't take this long to count the last 20% of ballots. Think of how quick they counted the first 80%. Something fishy went on at 4 a.m. on election night. Maybe it did. And these postal ballots, has Trump shot himself in the foot by telling his followers to stay away from them? Because now it's only Biden ballots that are coming in, and that we can legitimize that because he told his followers not to vote by ballot. Therefore, we wouldn't expect to see any Trump votes via ballot anyway, would we, if he specifically told them not to? It reminds me of the last time they had a border poll in the north of Ireland. The Republican parties told the nationalist community, don't take part in this vote, it's illegitimate. Therefore, it was something like 99% in favor of the 6 counties remaining part of the United Kingdom. It's as if the Trump side have abstained from this section of the ballot, and that's left an open goal for it to be manipulated or fraud to be committed, if that is what happened. And we don't know.
Yeah, but it's if. And I think you can't really ever win against this sort of a devil's advocate kind of rhetoric. I mean, we could ask these questions all day long, but at the end of it, it's a catch-22, because if he hadn't told his people not to use the postal ballots, then, I mean, the real, it's a way of skirting around the real heart of the question, which is if there's insincerity and dirty play going on the part of these states.
Is it true that the oldest person to vote this time round was born in 1863?
I haven't seen anything about that.
Well, there's been a lot of, apparently, I mean, this is the argument for the Trump side, that people are voting in the name of individuals that have already passed away.
It wouldn't surprise me, And
I did see some statistics where the turnout, I mean, we talk about voter apathy, you're lucky if you get 50% turnout in the UK. In some states, the turnout was 90%, 99%. In some places, it was even over 100%. Now, how can you have over 100% of the expected turnout of a vote? We're going to get a bit crowded, but I'm going to welcome Mac in anyway. Social distancing and all that, no more than 6 people. Hello, Mac. Welcome to the party.
Hi, guys.
Hey, in the chat, Airtime's asking, did it make any difference? Liam Bobrick saying, imagine having to wait on Cornwall to finish counting to wait for a prime minister. Yeah, is this something uniquely American, that you can be waiting a week to find out what the result is of a democratic election? Yeah,
but can we, before we move on, can I just go back for a second to what one of the written comments was saying about something more is going on, and he was getting at exactly the same thing that I was saying, which is if you zoom out, instead of looking at all these nitty-gritty questions, and you look at the bigger picture, and you say, they were, all the media were saying that it's going to be a slaughter against Trump, and it was actually a slaughter for Trump. It was again, and Trump was winning, killing it.
Are you seriously saying that?
Yeah.
What do you mean by he was winning? He was winning until what? Until they counted all the votes? I mean, that's what you do in an election, isn't it? What are you alleging?
Well, first of all, what I'm alleging unequivocally is that there was a lot of funny business with the media saying that Trump was going to lose by a landslide, and it wasn't a landslide. I mean, they were all looking very embarrassed in the first part of the night.
That's just them getting it wrong, though, isn't it? I mean, that's people making an incorrect prediction.
Look,
it's not illegal to be wrong.
Advocate. There's no real winning against that. It's like heads I win, tails you lose. There's always something to say like that.
Well, as I say, I think Biden, having been portrayed as having such a massive lead, may have cost him, couldn't it? Although he did apparently get more votes than Barack Obama. Is that possible?
I don't know. I haven't followed that closely.
No problem. Let's say hello to Mac. Hello to Omar. Is there any have you got any questions for Joe? Because this is Joe's night, and he's an expert on the. Yeah. This is for you, as you're our American correspondent.
Right.
Questions from the floor, gentlemen.
Yes. I would like to ask Joe. Do you think that the vote this year round has been for Biden, or is this vote an anti-Trump vote?
I think that answer differs depending on which voter you have to ask each individual voter, and I would speak for all of them if they would share an answer, but I don't think they would. I think you have all kinds of, stuck up, old people and highly reactionary individuals who are psychopaths, and they would be voting for Biden and for the establishment and with all of their hearts. I think there's some people who tell themselves
for Sleepy Joe. Really,
sorry?
Old people. You think the older generation would have voted for Joe Biden?
I mean, that might be a mischaracterization. I mean, just reactionary people. I guess they come in all shapes and sizes and ages, but rich people who are part of the deep state. I mean, there's over 1 million people in the United States government that have top secret clearance for top secret classified materials. And that is what defines the term of deep state. They are the definition of the deep state, and their interests are aligned with that whole establishment. And there are people who are hardliners for the national intelligence establishment and the national security establishment and everything, and they want as many wars as possible, people who are profiting from it, and they are totally hardcore for Sleepy Joe.
The war machine. Okay. A couple of points.
So
we mentioned... go on, Omar.
I think it's a more interesting question the other way around, to be honest. If you inverted it, it would be a much more interesting question.
I want to make one point before I forget about the age factor. This was the first election where the baby boomers, this massive age demographic from people born in the 1940s following the Second World War, were now outnumbered by the young people, is it Generation Z and millennials, people turning 18 this year. And that was portrayed as a swing factor in favour of
which side was which one was on which side?
Well, we're told that old-fashioned people, old white people, vote Republican. I know Trump is not a typical Republican.
That's a very important caveat.
Yes, it is. If we're being partisan, and young people. Well, he used to be a Democrat, didn't he? Wasn't he great friends with the Clintons? But the shift in demographics away from what would be known as conservatives, and the fact that a lot of conservatives ditched him. You had people like George W. Bush saying, sorry, I'm with Sleepy Joe on that one. And this is where you've got a point about the establishment, definitely.
So, if I may,
Go on, you may, Omar X.
thank you. Joe, you just mentioned that there's a million people with classified information and so on. How do you predicate this? What do you base this on? Because it just seems like you just took it out of thin air. Million seems to be a nice round number to
Over a
emphasize
million.
something. So, okay, over a million. Where do you get this information from, and what classified information do they have?
Well, it was an article a few years back or sometime around, I had read it around 2016. I can't remember who actually wrote it, but it was someone quite interesting who follows these things. And it was basically like, because the deep state is a very contentious and charged term for different people. And he said, let's just look at it. What is the definition? What was the origination of this term, the deep state? And the deep state, basically, you have a state within a state, and it's these, the top secret classified clearance is meant to be a quite exclusive thing. A small number of people who have it, but it's really expanded to the private security contractors and the military contractors and everything, and they've become kind of like a power unto themselves, and they have a community and they have a network within that it's set of people. It's just defined by sharing that, and it, they have an overclassification of information, but like they have access to things that even the elected legislators don't have access to sometimes, in some cases. And he was just saying that is what, that was what the deep state, the term deep state, was originally used to refer to.
That's amazing. We used to talk about the 1%, and people used to say, actually, it's even less than the 1%. The influential group of people are a tiny, tiny group. You're saying there's actually a million people who have this level of influence above the rest. And are you saying they exercise their right to vote, and he got a million votes from people like that? Or are they influential in a different way? Are we talking about lobbying here?
No, I don't think I was saying that that they're all very influential. I think a million makes up about 1/3% of American population or so.
That's
but
good maths.
But it's not that they're all very influential. I mean, Bradley Manning was a private, right? And he wasn't very influential in his official capacity, even though he did have some kind of a secret clearance. I don't know if it was top secret clearance, but I mean, they don't have massive political influence, but they are embedded in the war machine establishment. And there's tons of Americans who are like patriotic like that, and they want to see. I mean, yeah, I was gonna say, when you said that older people, you started talking about the boomers, and I could well imagine actually a lot of, in a certain sense, that the idea that America was ever great, then you want to restore it to its glory and make America great again. Trump is kind of like, I don't know. He's doing a lot of things that, from the ruling class perspective, he's bringing America to a decline, which I think humanity should celebrate. But for the boomers who don't want things shaken up too much, I had a passing thought that, perhaps they would be more in line with Sleepy Joe, because they don't want to shake things up too much. They don't want to, forfeit American dominance, and they don't want to scale back the war machine. And
I'll ask you this, and then I'd like to ask Mac also. 5 weeks is what Trump has. He's already said, I'm taking this straight to the court. I'm not going to accept this. His troops, if I can call them that, his own personal mini army, I guess, loyal troops, are on many streets in USA, Pennsylvania, and especially in other, Georgia and so on, with rifles and with all types of guns that they have ready for anything, I guess. My question is to you, and then Mac, simply, this man is not going, as you said in the morning, I'm not going to leave without a fight. He has 5 weeks, and he has all the power a president has for 5 weeks. What is going to happen? What hell is he going to cause, or will he walk straight away and say, "Nice one, Joe, it's all yours"?
I don't think he will shake his hand and hand over the reins like that. And it's going to get interesting. I think the financial press, the business press, the markets have been like totally surging this week, and the most sensible, level-headed voices have been explaining it very soundly. That they said that people have these narratives that, like, well, first of all, one of the things they're concerned about, the two main concerns for the 1%, if you will, economically, are we going to have corporate tax raises, and then are we going to have a fiscal stimulus bill, like another coronavirus relief or something, which is going to be a total handout to the major corporations of America, right? And so one of the reasons, even though, earlier on they were saying one of the biggest concerns for Wall Street will be not so much whether it's Sleepy Joe or the Donald, is as much as it is if it's going to be a contested election and an uncertain outcome, and then we might have like a civil war or something. And that is what the situation is now, and yet the markets have still been surging. So the reason for that, one of them, seems to be that the Republicans still have the Congress, and so even if Sleepy Joe wins, and I'm not going to make any loaded statements about, I don't think it's clear yet that he's legitimately won. But even if he does win, from Wall Street's perspective, he's not going to be able to get through a tax increase, and so that's not a concern for Wall Street, and so
he might be quite an impotent president, so to speak.
Just in the sense of being senile and demented.
Well, he won't be able to get anything done.
Oh yeah. I mean, because he's not going to have the Congress with him.
Yeah.
Just like they've been causing they're dragging their feet on everything that the Donald tries to do. I think they can expect reciprocity on that. And then the other thing is, but even if he does, they said it does, like the guy was saying before the election, as far as Wall Street is concerned, even if there is higher taxes, like maybe some higher capital gains taxes or something, there's going to be more spending as well and more economic stimulus, and for the Democrats, and both of them, there's no like Democrat or Republican. It's not so much of a difference. Now, to go back to bring that back to the Civil War thing, it's gonna get interesting. And I was thinking to myself today, if people can mobilize on the streets against each other for a civil war to defend what they perceive as the integrity of the election process and their desired election outcome, why then can't they also mobilize for a revolution to replace the system? And I want to be very clear in suggesting
that the Second Amendment is for. The Second Amendment.
Yeah, but
all right.
Until now, Americans have been too absorbed in their televisions and smartphones to have anything like that even be conceivable. But George Soros has been fanning the flames, on and on and on. And it seems like this election is what's finally making people get up and go at each other. I just want to say one more thing, and then I'll be done. I'll be through. But I just want to be really clear that I don't think that advocating for revolution is helpful at this moment, because people are concerned right now with protecting the election, which is an incremental step, and they're right to be. And to try to say, well, it's misguided if they can mobilize for this and to keep Trump when they could just be going for all-out revolution is a distraction from what they're focused on, because they've worked really hard to get through the whole smokescreen of Zuckerberg, Podesta, Jeff Bezos, New York Times, all of the media except for Murdoch have been suppressing, banning, shadow banning, cancel culturing, anything that's remotely sympathetic to Trump. And the people, the grassroots, have managed to get out the vote on all of the social media platforms that are completely all anti-Trump all the time. And every time they try to post any kind of news to further their movement, it gets censored. And yet they managed to get Trump into office in 2016. And whatever the voting outcomes were this time around, they managed to have a pretty strong turnout. And I think they're right to be angry about that and to care about that and to want to defend that advance.
There's a lot of anger. Superb points, Joe, and thank you for sharing your insight on this. We'll come back to you in a moment after some local news. My son did not win the People's Parliament vote. This is from Airtime. He thinks in his class there is also an establishment, and he is in year 3. Well, we can all demand a recount for Airtime's son, who didn't win the People's Parliament. I think a lot of school children have been doing that. I know Omar won it 3 years running back in Luton, and Tommy Robinson came second. Tim Asuna, who we haven't seen for a while, is saying, if a war starts, it will be Antifa versus the not-so-crazy left. Antifa are on the streets hating Biden and Trump. Liam Bobrick saying, civil war is in the zeitgeist, it seems. How natural is that feeling, though? Loving the word zeitgeist. Yeah, do you think it's all just a bit of divide and conquer? What can we realistically hope for in a month from now? Presuming that, well, let's not presume anything. What do you think America will look like in a month from now, Joe? Will we still be debating this, or will we finally be able to look to the future? And could Trump pull something out of the bag, like Mac's crazy idea? Mac, and he'll elaborate in a moment. He thinks Trump could start a war to keep himself in the hot seat. Is there any chance of that?
That's just one of the options.
What are the other options, Mac?
Well, he could be, like you said yourself, the Proud Boys, get them out.
Okay, so the Proud Boys could keep him in through some kind of violent protest, I suppose.
Yeah, and Joe's quite old, isn't he? God forbid, I mean.
yeah. Well, Sleepy Joe is quite old. But awake Joe Plummerson, what's America going to look like in a month? Are we just dreaming? To imagine that Trump's going to cling on via some other means.
Look, the gloves are off at this point. I think it's anyone's guess. What I do think that the Donald his style is not quite so underhanded. I don't think he'll use any kind of excuse or pretext. I mean, he's been a lot less hawkish than the Biden crime family, as Owen is calling him. Chinese communist takeover of the. But anyway, he wouldn't use some kind of another ulterior excuse. I think he would just call it like it is. And
I think, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just say, I watched John McCain's, obviously, when he didn't win. Obviously, Bush's second term and Carter, hopefully. I watched them when they didn't win. They gave such a humbling speech, but it doesn't seem that Trump's willing to go in that direction. So this is what I'm saying. Like you say, he's wanting to put up a fight before they can take him out. But I'm sorry.
He's a very powerful man, Trump.
you have to look at the context and the backdrop of all of that as well. Just looking at the demeanors of the people. I mean, those are reflections of the conditions between the people and in the picture. And so the gloves have been. I mean, what this man has had to put up with, the amount of smearing, the amount of dirty play, the accusations, the Russiagate.
Where's the Russiagate this time? Russia must love Biden.
Nonsense. It's been nonstop.
If Russia was so influential and Russia won it for Trump and Russia, I mean, it won't be long before
Sorry,
Russia
I missed something.
Russia are always accused of meddling in everything, and it was Russia that got Trump elected, apparently. I'm sure Russia will be accused of meddling in the Saudi elections this year. But where are they in all this? Doesn't this suggest that if either Russia isn't that influential or they wanted Biden, maybe?
No, maybe last time people weren't certain that they were involved, and when the CIA and the FBI done their investigations, they found out that there was a hand from Russia. There was somewhat of a hand from Russia. This time they didn't want to take any risks and they didn't want to be blamed for anything, and this is why they just stepped back, if they even did anything in the first place. But Trump is a very powerful man. Don't count him out. He knows a lot of people. He knows a lot of secrets about a lot of people. So
does he really?
Don't be surprised if he still is president when you wake up tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I could see that as well.
Owen Keeling is telling us that Russiagate is fake news. What about Chinagate? What about Chinagate then, Joe? How closely linked is Joe Biden to China, if at all? Is this a red herring, or have China made this one happen and Russia did the last one? What's China got to do with anything?
I'm happy to just say it's a red herring. There might be some truth, just like, you know, there might be some truth of the Donald having some dealings with Russia or something, and there might be some unsavory connections here and there, but it is a red herring, and I'm not even saying that is the case. It's not even worth going into, in my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. I do find it interesting where Russia and China used to be allied together as enemies of the West or rivals. They still kind of are, but the parties in America seem to be lining up with them. The Republicans are associated with Russia, and China are seen as backing the Democrats. Whether that's true or not, that seems to be the perception.
Yeah, well, let's just be clear about something that Omar had said that I think needs to be answered. That when the FBI and the CIA did their investigation about Russian meddling, they found it. But if we actually look behind the curtain, as people have been able to reveal, yeah, thank you, BA. It's completely fabricated. It's just phony, and there was like they didn't accept anything, but what they wanted to hear. It was specifically commissioned to, like, it was completely concocted, and we know that from if you research the matter, there's investigative journalists who have researched it with objective, hard, concrete documents. And that I don't have references to off the top of my head, but you'll find that it was completely concocted and phony.
Okay. What is being alleged now by Owen Keeling is that the Chinese Communist Party Epsteined Hunter Biden. That is what the laptop from hell is about. So there's a suggestion that the Chinese Communist Party, the leaders in China, put Joe Biden's son in a compromising position, set him up with whatever untoward escapade he was up to, and it was recorded on a laptop, and now the Republicans have that evidence in their hands and are keen to spread it to say, look, this is what the Bidens are up to. So he's suggesting that China would have done that so as to bribe or blackmail, rather, the Biden family. Do you think someone has got Joe Biden by the balls, so to speak?
I wouldn't be surprised if Trump did.
If Trump did,
yeah, he knows powerful people, and at the same time, he calls him slow Joe Biden, sleepy Joe Biden. But going back to if there's going to be, I think, knowing Trump, he's always going to have something in his sleeve to the last minute. And
the ice cream glove, if Ali G.
Well, he's going to try and pull it off with a magic trick. But
yeah, all right. Well, I can't wait.
It's possible. You got to admit he's different to all the other presidents that we've seen before. And
yeah, he's not mainstream. He's not the mainstream. That's the argument.
And that is why it won't be an easy concession like in the past when people have lost. Then they give let's just I want to be president, but let's make the unity of the American ruling class is more important. So I'm gonna shake your hand and concede defeat. And it's not
always
going
a
to be like this
heartwarming
because
moment,
it's
isn't it?
a fake contest. Well, I mean, but it's a fake contest like it has been in past years because, like you said, Trump is different from the other presidents and the other candidates, and he's very different. He's significantly different.
Not in a good way.
Well, that's subjective. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. It's just different, and that's why he stands for things that are significantly different from what
he's a qualified. He's qualified for business decisions, not like presidential ones. You can't run the country like it's a business. What we're talking about? No, but I'm just saying he's a business-minded character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's ambitious.
Yeah,
look, Joe,
but
you made
we're just talking. We're not talking about the quality of the differences between it. We're just talking about the fact of that he's quite a different character from the other candidates and the establishment politicians, and that's why it's not just like, oh yeah, I would have. That's why it's not just like, oh well, you win some, you lose some, and yeah, well, I hope you enjoy the Oval Office instead of me, because it's about something bigger than that, and it's about serious differences between them and the fate of the country, and in a certain sense, and to a certain extent, and it's larger than himself, unlike in previous elections, which is why he probably won't let it go as easily. Apart from the fact that it seems like there has genuinely been a lot of dirty play.
Joe, you've made a very strong case for Donald Trump. Just to conclude it, what is
would you go that far? If I'd go that far?
Well,
but go on.
It appears to me that you've made a strong case for him. I don't think you actually like him as much as perhaps it comes across.
Make another point?
He's the lesser of two evils. It would seem. One moment, Matt. Sure. Keep your point in mind. Don't forget it. What would your ideal president look like, and how would that differ from Donald Trump?
Julian, you're looping in and out. The connection is not great. I've got two bars
sorry,
where
Joe.
I am.
Sorry, Joe. I wanted to ask you.
But it's 4G. It should be fine.
What your ideal president would look like? Trump, I assume you're choosing as the lesser of two evils, as always seems to be the case when we have these elections in America. But who would be your ideal candidate if there's an independent that has stood out, that did run, or make it up? Tell me what your ideal candidate, what do you want the presidency to look like?
Well, first of all, I think, sorry, is that for me?
Yeah, that's for you, Joe.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think I would even go so far as you said that I'm choosing Trump, that I'm choosing him as the lesser of two evils. I don't know that I am choosing him. I didn't vote. I don't care enough to vote.
Because he told you not to do it by a postal vote. No, I'm joking. Who would vote? Who would you vote for then? Who could bring Joe out to the polling station? What's it going to take? If Donald Trump couldn't do it, who could?
Not Bernie.
No,
Bernie's a lying monkey.
Right.
And I understand why people like him. Jill Stein's a bit of a fash. I understand why people like her too. And I used to look at her.
She was Green Party, right? Green Party.
She is, yeah.
Okay.
And I think she was she a PhD or was she a medical doctor? I don't even remember. But I have a feeling that all of the people who are trashing Trump for coming from business wouldn't be saying that about her from coming from medicine or academia or whatever it was. I don't know. Not Bernie, not like. I don't know. It's America's a strange place.
Or maybe we could build a president if you could have Bernie's economics with Trump's foreign policy mixed with a bit of.
You're talking like if Bernie and Trump got a ticket together or something, that would be fairly interesting. Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. That would be pretty damn interesting, actually.
Wouldn't it? Just Bernie.
I'd totally vote for them then. I think that would have me at the ballot box.
Well, there you go. Bernie would have been the best president of all time. That's 33x. Mac, we interrupted you a while ago when you had a question. I hope you jotted it down. What were you going to say to Joe?
I forgot that point, but I've got another point to make anyway.
You got another one. All right.
To seal up, obviously, Trump. Trump's a businessman, like I was saying, but he seems to me the type of character where when he wants something, whatever it's going to take, he'll
just grab it.
Even if it means forging documents.
Even if it means grabbing them by whatever.
When have you ever been shown to forge a document?
That's a very strong accusation, Matt.
Yeah, when have you been shown to forge a document?
I'm just saying, as an example, I haven't seen any.
You're saying based on what? On what basis are you just saying?
I'm saying it based on his statement, saying that he never committed any offenses when he was speaking to the Ukraine president. When we know he did a quid pro quo there. So
who did a quid pro quo?
The president. He asked for it. He goes, "What you want?" He was basically trying to look and get the Ukraine president or to look into the Bidens, and meaning basically if Trump means to play dirty to win, then he will play dirty. This is the point that I'm trying.
But what good is that point when you don't apply the same statement to the other side?
Oh, you hypocrite, Mac. How can you come on this show with your hypocrisy?
Because I've seen the well, you could say, I suppose it is. That's what politics is about, is to try and get dirt on the other party. But saying that,
but it's not, you made a leap from
Okay, Trump has more resources.
You made a leap from enticing the Ukrainian authorities to investigate the matter, which I think nobody really denies is true, to fabricating documents. And I don't see how. I mean, the Democrats have been the ones fabricating documents left and right.
If he's going to forge comments, there are comments that Trump has said that are false. For example, from putting bleach into your lungs.
Sorry, all of these. That?
I'm saying all of these nonsense things that he comes out with, and then he has to get corrected after by his own people. That just shows you that it's not a president. Like, for him, he's a businessman. You could try and ask him a get scheme rich scheme kind of thing. Yeah, he'll come up with it. But in terms of being a presidential quality, or I believe he got his. For him to get where he is, he had to somehow forge his way. Now, I'm not saying he forged documents in particular. I'm just talking about it could be whether he's forging his statement.
When has he ever forged documents? When has he ever been shown to?
I'm not talking specifically documents. I'm not. I'm
Can
just
we be a
saying.
bit more specific then, please?
Statements.
Be a bit
All right,
more
his statement.
specific. All right.
He forges. So the statistics and stuff like that he brings out, like the weather, the prediction of the tornado, that was something that he came out with a graph and he was showing, and he was saying, making suggestions on what areas are going to be affected. He was trying to, and to me, it just seems that, like, first of all, you're not a weatherman, and second of all, you're just trying to forge your like it's forging the weather. That's just an example of one of the statements that you.
Like, if we, it sounds like your ideal president then is a professional establishment politician, like Sleepy Joe or Hillary Clinton. Like, it sounds like that's what it is. He could just
come on, man.
I mean, his only qualm with the Donald is that he's not a professional career politician. No.
All right. Well, let's.
Well, I guess after 4 years of practice, he should be. He should be better than he was when he started.
As we all know, Donald Trump is very racist. And Tim Asuna is saying people like to call Trump racist. Yet, hold on. People like to call Trump racist. Yet he made gains with the Black, Latino, and Muslim community. He really only lost ground with the white males. How does it make sense to call him a racist? Not racist enough, it seems, for the ethno-nationalists. Yeah, that's interesting. The loss of the white male vote cost Trump the election this time round.
Now, if I may just return briefly and actually speak to the first example that you did give, which was about the Donald asking the Ukrainians to investigate the Bidens. This is not like some kind of, first of all, he wasn't fabricating. He was asking them to investigate something that nobody has denied is true. And if you look at what the emails
said, Joe, you can't, as a president, you can't ask someone to go and investigate and get me some dirt on this guy, on this person who's going to be my opponent. So I want to use that against him. That goes against everything that a president really of honor and decency.
There's no integrity. That's not integrity. There's no integrity in that move.
Yeah,
there is.
But it was,
to say the least, there's no integrity.
No,
but it's trickery and it's
if you want to say those things, if you want to say those things, that's fine. If you want to say those things, but only if we can zoom out and look just one step to the side and see what he actually uncovered.
We don't need to. We don't need that from. If Biden did that, Biden wasn't the president. Biden at the time wasn't. We're talking about a president doing something like this. He
was vice president, and he was peddling his influence with the White House, so that the business partners could make money. And he was doing the most sleazy thing that an elected representative could possibly do, which is peddle their legitimate authority that you've granted them as a voter to line their own pockets. And Donald Trump, the worst that you're accusing him of is using his own influence to allow the voters
and to trap someone.
He's the president. He's a resourceful guy.
He's a powerful man. Yeah.
He's exposing one of the candidates to the electorate as somebody who is peddling.
No, not exposing. Looking for dirt to trap. There's a difference. Exposing is one thing. You know someone's done something wrong, and you say, "Here's the proof. This is what this man has done." If you tell someone, "Get me the dirt. I want dirt on this guy. I want him to be trapped. I want all the information you can give on him." That's something completely different.
The proof's there,
Joe. I think,
and it's not the only thing. Trump is responsible for the deaths of many people. There's 240,000, I beg your pardon, people who have died from COVID in the USA. Trump was fully aware of this. He was told about this, and he just said, "No, this is just a flu. You don't need to worry about it." And until this day, this man is saying, "Hey, you know what?" He's not even telling his supporters wear a damn mask and keep a social.
Responsible for?
There's 240,000 people that are dead. He's responsible for many of them. And even if he's responsible for one, then, that's too many if you ask me. He knew what the dangers were. His chief medical advisor had told him, this is killing us. This is killing the people. And instead of telling everyone, hey, you know, be careful, wear a mask, he said, no, this is like a flu. Don't worry about it. And we've got it under control when his own...
You're talking about him being responsible for deaths that he just somehow failed to mitigate through his policies. And if you want to talk about actual responsibility for deaths, the Obama administration dropped bombs and shot bullets at you know, many thousands of people. If you want to talk about actual deaths that they single-handedly perpetrated, it's a ridiculous conversation without acknowledging.
It's not a popularity about how many deaths someone has taken. It doesn't make you bad if you take too many deaths. You're bad if you're responsible for one. The facts are this. Trump was fully aware of what was going on when people were dying of COVID. He didn't make this into a big deal. In fact, he just said, you know what? Look, I can get it. I'm an old man. It's no big deal. He should have been saying the antithesis, and he's got blood on his hands just on that alone.
Is that what you're saying, though? If you could have voted, you would have voted for Biden, because all you're talking about is how bad is Trump. But what would you actually do if you could vote?
Well, I can't vote. I think.
That's why I used the word if.
If I could, I don't think I would party. I'll probably find some independent party because there's not that much difference in them overall. But Trump, as president, is held to an account a higher level of scrutiny.
This is why I worry that he's going to try even harder to stay in, because he's going to be, obviously, once he does step down, people can then, apparently...
He's got 11 weeks. He's got 11 weeks.
Well, and people are going to try and... Apparently, people are going to try and... There's going to be some jail time. There's going to be some jail time, apparently, if he steps down. And there's been sources that have been claiming that Trump can do some. But
it's not only Trump. It's about what his supporters can do. He's got that little mini army, and they're out there with guns all over the country saying either stop the vote, stop counting, and the elections are rigged. So they're making all these statements, and they're not going to go home anytime soon. So we just need to wait. What's going to happen in the next?
Omar, Joe, wait 1 moment. Joe, you made great points about the blood on Barack Obama's hands abroad. He killed many people in the Middle East with his wars following the war hawkish policy, him and Clinton. Trump is perceived to have allowed people to die at home, whether you agree with that or not. Is that a factor then? Because the people making the decision are the Americans. If Trump let Americans die in America, voters will care more about that than what happens in the Middle East, and notoriously some Americans are quite oblivious to what happens abroad. So is it a case of domestic policy trumping foreign policy?
Well, I think we have to be very careful about the COVID figures as well. I mean, it seems very far-fetched to me for somebody to suggest that they're not being politicized, because you look at like the timing of this ostensible second surge, and it seems very well coordinated with the election, right? And it's a very convenient excuse to bring in martial law on the eve of what's very well may be a huge civil war.
Next you'll be telling me Black Lives only matter during election years.
And apparently they do, if one consults the Google Trends. They look at the empirical data. That's what all of the Black Lives Matter activity is done.
Hard to believe. And you did mention George Soros earlier on. One point not brought up, this is from Brian Cannot Tell, is the election is not the deciding factor on the president. It is the Electoral College, and they don't have to follow the popular vote anyway. Shalom, blessings. Thank you, Brian. His degree is not forged. It is an honorary achievement. Yeah, I know technically the Electoral College don't have to follow the popular vote, but surely there'd be an uprising if they didn't, wouldn't there?
On the point of an honorary degree, I think it's not really a degree, is it? It's an honorary. You can have one. Any idiot can have one in that case.
Well, maybe they were honor killings in the Middle East then by Barack Obama. That would
Well, they
make them all right,
certainly
wouldn't
weren't. Barack Obama has a lot of blood on his hands. He killed
it?
American citizens out there, especially Anwar Awlaki. And 2 weeks later, they killed his 14-year-old son. And 2 years from that or so, they killed his 12-year-old daughter. So someone has a lot of blood on their hands. I don't know how they sleep at night.
Unbelievable. Well, look, gentlemen, I want to thank you all. Is there any burning questions from Mac? Mac, I know we obscured you earlier on. Is there anything you wanted to ask Joe that you haven't had the chance to say?
Not really. I mean, apart from just to add that, yeah, I don't have a problem with Joe Biden winning, as you were saying, but I just feel that Trump would be the wrong choice, in my opinion. But that's all I just wanted to end with. All
right, Omar, closing statement from you.
My statements are that I wish Bernie Sanders was here, and this is the second time that he was somehow kicked out, if I can use that term. I don't know what happened or what the procedure is, but we wouldn't have had this problem if Bernie was here. It would have been a landslide in favor of Bernie, and I certainly felt the burn. I'm feeling the burn, the UK burn, as in feeling sad that unfortunately he's not here. But let's see what happens. I think it's still on a knife's edge. It could go either way. Trump is a very powerful man. He's got Supreme Court. He's got all judges. He's got all sorts of people in his pocket, and he's always got an ace up his sleeve.
Maybe Bernie and Trump on come 2024 will be on the beach training like Rocky and Apollo. And he can.
But just to avoid jail time, wouldn't he go all out? Wouldn't he go all out to avoid any jail time?
He's not going to jail, is he?
Well,
Joe, could Trump go to jail? Surely not.
Never.
No, I guess you're right. You're right.
Obama, he's not above the law, but Obama needs to be in jail. And how far back do we go? We need to put a lot of people in jail if he goes to jail.
In general. Joe. One prerequisite one requirement for putting someone to jail is that they have to commit a crime first, and I don't know.
What did Assange
identify when it's a crime?
Oh yeah, Assange. Okay, he went against the.
And the final point, Max brought it up. Joe, you and I met at a Julian Assange rally. Trump famously said, "I love WikiLeaks," when they were dishing the dirt on Hillary. What the hell happened to that? He denied him 3 times.
He should pardon them. He should pardon them.
Like in Bible. Why has he not pardoned Julian Assange? And shouldn't he do it now? Wouldn't that be a great goodbye?
Yeah, it would actually. That's a good point.
Joe, you with me?
Yeah, I don't have much of an answer for it really.
All right. We've stumped Joe. I guess there is no answer. Maybe someone got to Trump.
As Julian Assange said once early on in the Trump presidency, when he was being blamed, they were trying to blame him for Trump winning the election. He said, look, it's still very early days in the Trump presidency. It's a very young administration, and there's a lot of promise, and you have to give him time, and there still might be a lot to come out of it that we haven't seen yet.
Can I just
we
say
only one term through, and as I think it was perhaps Omar that just said, I mean, look, Trump is always been about shaking things up. I haven't tracked it so closely, and has he broken a lot of promises? I think he has broken a lot of promises, but he is a genuine alternative. I mean, there's a very significant difference between him and anyone that he's
but he's had impeachable offenses. He's committed
like what? Like
Well,
what?
they were going to impeach him. I mean, Obama,
Yeah, they were gonna impeach him.
Bush, even though they're saying Bush should be in jail, neither one of them were going to be impeached, were they? Well, which
This
Bush
is
are you
just
talking about, Dave?
homosexual nonsense. The one adjustment that I would make to whoever it was that said that Trump, you know, he's a crafty guy. And he's always got an ace up his sleeve. You know, I think that's the right assessment of the situation. If only we change, instead of an ace up his sleeve, like it's some kind of a magic trick or something. If by an ace up his sleeve you mean he has the popular will of the American people behind him,
Well, I don't
and
know if he has, because the
massive
votes,
popular support,
Joe, the votes are telling us
that
something
is
different.
a very powerful ace to have in one's sleeve.
But the American popular will is missing in this case. If he doesn't get in, that implies that he doesn't have the ace. Then I'm referring to a different kind of ace. When people go to a poker
I know
game
you are.
and the poker game, that person
I
will
said
always
a
win.
trick.
So he's
I
got
said he's
something.
got a
Imply
trick.
that he's a cheater.
He's got a
Don't
trick
forget-
up his sleeve.
Don't forget,
Not
you
necessarily
can
a cheater.
you
It's a
can
case of
win-
he wins. Yeah,
don't
he's a
forget
winner.
you can win the popular vote, and you can also lose the election. Donald Trump didn't have the popular vote in 2016, but he won
Who
the
cares
election.
if you had a popular vote or not? He won the election. That's what they're there for. Imran Khan once said very interestingly that it doesn't matter who votes or how many people vote, even if millions or tens of millions of people vote, it matters on who counts the votes.
That's a very good point.
And that's a very good point. Another very good point from Jamal Semiev. He's saying the guy with facial hair makes good points. Thank you very much. That could maybe there's something. Maybe there's a correlation.
Johnny Bravo, the Asian
Yeah.
Johnny Bravo.
That's all of us.
Yeah, he's got it. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. You're tempting me to do it again tomorrow night. This has been Lessons for Life. Please subscribe if you're watching and you haven't subscribed already. Then you are a disgrace. It's been Lessons for Life, and we'll do it all again soon. We were here. We're gone. Latest.